mystery.
In our history.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Mystery in Our History podcast, where we take an in-depth look at all things urban legend and conspiracy theory related and how they came to be. I'm J.R. Supa. That's Chris Berry, aka Chris B. OMG, on the Twitch and the Instagrams.
I'm there sometimes.
And here we go. All right, Chris, the time has finally come, to do another conspiracy theories, because we took a bit of a break from conspiracy theories for a while.
A little bit.
But this conspiracy theory is a doozy, because after a very long wait by you, we are finally tackling the JFK assassination.
Yeah, and I know this conspiracy has a lot to it, and I bet it had your head spinning while you were researching.
It is a lot of information.
Yes.
And so we're trying to put this as concise as possible while still trying to provide as much information as possible. And I'm hoping that we're presenting it in a way that makes sense from a flow standpoint, because there is so much to this.
Oh, it's all over the place. The conspiracy is all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and you'll see what I'm talking about by crazy when we get into what we're getting into. But so I think what we'll first do is we're going to start with the actual day.
Yeah, the history.
Correct.
As you so
as I love to do. I mean, I am Mr. History.
Mr. History. That's true.
So November 22nd, 1963. The following are going to be the facts, quote-unquote facts, that are taken from the jfklibrary.org website. So keep that in mind, because I'm not paraphrasing. I'm just copy-pasting. So relax in the comments. At least for this part. You're free to be upset by everything else we're going to say, but I'm not saying this. This is just what's on the website.
Relax in the comments. I love that.
You can comment on other stuff, but if you want to comment on this, attack jfklibrary.org, not me.
Do not come at me.
Correct. All right, so shortly after noon, on November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated as he rode in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza in downtown Dallas, Texas. After the president's plane landed in Dallas, the procession left the airport and traveled along a 10-mile route that wound through downtown Dallas on the way to the Trade Mart, where the president was scheduled to speak at a luncheon. Since it was no longer raining, the plastic bubble top had been let off. The Vice President and Mrs. Johnson occupied another car in the motorcade. Crowds of excited people lined the streets and waved to the Kennedys. The car turned off Main Street at Dealey Plaza around 2:30 p.m. As it was passing the Texas School Book Depository, gunfire suddenly reverberated in the plaza. Bullets, that is plural, bullets, struck the president's neck and head, and he slumped over towards Mrs. Kennedy. The governor of Texas was shot in the back. And I highlight bullets because for a very long time it was widely believed that it was one shot that was fired or one bullet that killed the president.
And that's already been debunked.
Right, and there was this magic bullet theory.
Right, the ricochet theory.
Yeah, so that's debunked, but this is coming from the website. There are multiple bullets. They're saying multiple bullets.
Right.
All right. The car sped off to Parkland Memorial Hospital, just a few minutes away, but little could be done for the president. A Catholic priest was summoned to administer the last rites, and at 1 p.m., John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead. Though seriously wounded, Governor Connolly would recover. The president's body was brought to Love Field and placed on Air Force One. Before the plane took off, a grim-faced Lyndon B. Johnson stood in the tight, crowded compartment and took the oath of office, administered by U.S. District Court Judge Sarah Hughes. A brief ceremony took place at 2:38 p.m. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of the ceremony.
Right. And the photos, I'm sure you've seen the photos.
Yeah.
Pretty historic of the tight corridor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
the swearing
hallway.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally a hallway on Air Force One where he's just got his hand in the air going, yes, I'll be president. But I want to know, was there cake at the ceremony, do you think?
I didn't see any cake, but I'm not going to rule it out. I ain't going to rule it out.
Less than an hour earlier, police had arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, a recently hired employee at the Texas Book Depository. He was being held for the assassination of President Kennedy and the fatal shooting shortly afterward of patrolman J.D. Tippit on a Dallas street. So not only is he accused of killing the president, but he's also accused of killing a police officer right after.
Yeah, he shot a police officer who questioned him right after.
Yep. On Sunday morning, November 24th, Oswald was scheduled to be transferred from police headquarters to the county jail. Viewers across America watched the live television coverage, suddenly saw a man aim a pistol and fire at point-blank range. The assailant was identified as Jack Ruby, a local nightclub owner. Oswald died 2 hours later in Parkland Hospital.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the official story. So that gives a pretty good idea of the events that happened that day. So that way you kind of have a timeline of what happened shortly after the assassination as well.
Now, before we move on, again, like Chris said, that's the gist.
Mm-hmm.
But there is so much more to this.
Bumps and hiccups in there.
Exactly. So let's continue, and we will first discuss the man behind the assassination, according to the official story.
Yeah, there was a lot about him that I didn't know. Actually, looking into this.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting too. I was surprised by some of the stuff. So let's jump into Lee Harvey Oswald. So Lee Harvey Oswald was born October 18th, 1939, died November 24th, 1963, as we just said. Oswald was an American Marxist and former U.S. Marine who assassinated John F. Kennedy on November 22nd. Oswald was honorably released from active duty in the Marine Corps into the reserve and defected to the Soviet Union in 1959. He lived in Minsk until June 1962, when he returned to the United States with his Russian wife, Marina. And eventually they settled in Dallas, Texas. 5 government investigations concluded that Oswald shot and killed Kennedy from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository as the president traveled by motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas.
So before doing any looking into Lee Harvey Oswald, I actually didn't know that he was an employee of the Texas School Book Depository. So that's actually a whole new angle for me of him, claiming to be a patsy for the whole thing. But also, I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
Well, he was a recent employee too.
Right.
He got that job as part of his plan.
Right. Exactly.
Now, about 45 minutes after assassinating Kennedy, Oswald shot and killed Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit on a local street. He then slipped into a movie theater where he was arrested for Tippit's murder. Oswald was eventually charged with the assassination of Kennedy. He denied the accusations, stating that he was a patsy. And 2 days later, he was fatally shot by local nightclub owner Jack Ruby on live television in the basement of Dallas Police headquarters.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And the fact that people didn't think right away, oh my God, this guy got killed being transferred from prison to prison wasn't crazy or a cover-up in itself,
right?
Is beyond wild to me. Because, right, you want to cover up the crime, kill the guy who's going to talk, right?
Yeah.
But nobody thought anything of it at the time. They were just like, oh man, another crazy guy shot Oswald. What's the world coming to?
Hashtag Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
You don't
Well,
want
yeah,
a guy
exactly.
to talk, you make sure he did.
Kill him. Yep.
However, so devil's advocate for that, Chris, I think
Mhm.
the argument can be made that JFK was such a beloved president that someone wanting to kill his killer was not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. Right. I agree with that. Wholeheartedly. And actually, I think that at the time when this was all unraveling, I think that's kind of was like the public opinion, right?
Yeah.
Was that
And I think
this guy?
But I also think that goes to what you were saying, because what better plan, you know what I mean? Like, what better way to execute that plan and keep him from talking? Because now you know, like, this guy killed the most beloved president, and so of course people are going to want him dead, so let's just kill him.
Right. Right. Exactly. No, I agree. It's very smart. If there's a cover up here, it's the smartest way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think.
All right, so in September of 1964, the Warren Commission, which we will get into in more detail later, concluded that Oswald acted alone when he assassinated Kennedy by firing 3 shots from the Texas School Book Depository. This conclusion, though controversial, was supported by previous investigations from the FBI, the Secret Service, and the Dallas Police Department. Despite forensic, ballistic, and eyewitness evidence supporting the official findings, public opinion polls have shown that most Americans do not believe the official version of events.
Yeah, I believe that, and I guess I would be one of them because, like many official versions of events of big things that happen in our history, like this one, there are so many holes in the story, and when you bring them up, everyone just goes, "Well, don't look at it and don't ask questions because you're crazy. You already have the official version. Why are you not believing what we just told you?"
Right.
And honestly, for me, that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough to say, "Hey, don't look at it." You know, if you have questions, if people want answers. So honestly, it's not that shocking to me that people don't believe the official story.
Dude, makes perfect sense. And with that, let's transition into a bit of the mystery, if you will.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the conspiracy, right?
Mhm.
Many conspiracy theories posit that the assassination involved people or organizations in addition to Lee Harvey Oswald. No one's disputing that Oswald was involved, but the conspiracy is that he did not act alone. Most current theories put forth a criminal conspiracy involving parties as varied as the FBI, the CIA, the United States military, the mafia, Vice President Johnson, Cuban President Fidel Castro, the KGB, or some combination of those entities.
Which is crazy to me because I actually didn't know there was that many aspects to the theory going into it this week. I knew about a few, but you just rattled off 7 different angles.
Yeah.
And that is insane.
And that's the crazy thing. And as we're going to see, they all have reasons to want him dead. Yep. They all have motive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that not only do they all have motive, but they're also hush-hush, shush-shush about everything. Yep. You know what I mean? Don't look into it too much because that's not it. Look at the official story, so.
Yes.
But we're going to look into it because
Absolutely.
that's what we do here.
So let's start. Why the FBI? 2 days after the assassination of Lee Harvey Oswald by Jack Ruby, the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover issued a strong plea to the Justice Department that there be no independent investigation into the death of President John F. Kennedy.
Already backing up what I'm just saying, and it's already suspicious.
Well, Hoover knew that if the FBI and the CIA had done their job, Kennedy would never have been shot. Hoover succeeded in claiming national security concerns were at stake, and he never told the true story, even under oath to the Warren Report.
Damn, man. Hoover sounds like a pretty shady guy. That's a pretty scummy way to go.
I mean, he also liked to cross-dress in his spare time, so, not that there's anything wrong with cross-dressing, but, be open about it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he's not open about that, not open about the assassination, so...
He's a liar.
Yeah.
Well, Oswald had been under very direct and aggressive surveillance in the months before the assassination, and both the FBI and CIA knew all about his ties to Cuba and Russia. They had been watching him since 1959. So for 4 years, they'd been watching him.
Damn.
Now, if you were asked to name the top 3 enemies of JFK, in 1963, they would have been Cuba, where JFK was trying to kill Castro. We'll get to that. Russia, which had just climbed down from the potential nuclear war. We'll get to that. And Oswald, filled with hate for Kennedy and recorded on a wiretap by the FBI threatening to kill JFK.
Well, yeah, of course, right? I mean, you got to make sure the evidence piles up against the patsy, right? You got to have your receipt.
Well, FBI cover-up began right away with the agents ordered to destroy a note that Oswald himself had delivered to the FBI office in Dallas, threatening violence if they did not cease their surveillance of him. Threatening violence if they did not cease their surveillance of him. I will splice those 2 sentences together and make one coherent sentence. He was such an obvious target for surveillance that the cover-up goes on today with the Trump administration pulling most of the evidence at the last moment for, quote-unquote, national security reasons.
Again, this right here is why people don't trust the governments, right? This was supposed to all be declassified by now.
Yep.
We're supposed to get the full story, in 2018, I believe it was. And, just saying, hey, national security risks and sweep it under the rug is just not good enough anymore.
It's been
people want answers.
It's been 50
We want to
years.
know what happened.
It's been 50 years.
We want to know what happened. Well, listen, if it came out that the Russians came out and actually killed Kennedy, do you think it's really going to spark a war today? We're going to go, oh shit.
It wasn't even the same Russian leader who like, what are you going to do?
Right, exactly. That's what my point is. It's just like, I don't know about that, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Well, so based on this, it appears that the FBI had plenty of evidence and opportunity to stop Oswald from pulling the trigger. So why didn't they? You know?
Yeah, they wanted him dead is the only thing I can think.
Exactly. Well, so let's move on to the next theory. Why the CIA?
Mm-hmm.
Conspiracy theorists have ascribed various motives for CIA involvement in the assassination of President Kennedy, including Kennedy's firing of CIA Director Allen Dulles, his refusal to provide air support to the Bay of Pigs invasion, his plan to cut the agency's budget by 20%, and the belief that the president was weak on communism. So let's dive deeper and see what was out there.
Yeah, it does go deep. And I already know you did way more research on this than I did at any point in my life. I just know fragments of this part. You really did a good job on this part, so I'm excited to go into it.
The CIA one is the one that has the most information out there.
Yes.
There is a lot to the CIA.
Yeah, and I think they're the one agency out of all the American agencies I think is the least liked.
Because they don't really have a boss.
Right, and to me, they're just American terrorists, right? They kind of make us look bad everywhere else. Because they just kind of go everywhere and terrorize everyone.
Well, I mean, but at the same time, Christian Bale and Batman were what Gotham needed. They played the villain.
Sometimes you got to play the villain.
We're what Gotham needs. All right.
I don't wear a hockey mask.
Why you want to kill me? Anyway, in 1966, New Orleans District Attorney Jim Garrison began an investigation into the assassination of President Kennedy. Garrison's investigation led him to conclude that a group of right-wing extremists were involved with elements of the CIA in a conspiracy to kill Kennedy. Garrison also came to believe that businessman Clay Shaw, head of the International Trade Mart in New Orleans, was part of the conspiracy. And on March 1st, 1967, Garrison arrested and charged Shaw with conspiring to assassinate President Kennedy.
I think it's interesting that he decided to do that 4 years after the assassination.
Yeah.
It took that long to get to that point.
Well, because, you had all the other commissions that were involved, right? You had the Warren Commission and every other, because what was it, 5, I think I said, 5 different committees that were involved in this that concluded all the same thing, that Oswald acted alone, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, like, it had to, like, go through the processes and then die down.
Right.
Before he could, like, just pick it up and be like, okay, let's actually look at this. So 3 days after Shaw's arrest, the Italian left-wing newspaper Pace Sera published an article alleging that Shaw was linked to the CIA through his involvement in the Centro Mondiale Commerciale, a subsidiary of Permidex in which Shaw was a board member. According to Pace Sera, the CMC had been a front organization developed by the CIA for transferring funds to Italy for illegal political espionage activities. Pace Sera also reported that the CMC had attempted to depose French President Charles de Gaulle, in early 1960s. The newspaper printed other allegations about individuals it said were connected to Permidex, including Louis Bloomfield, who it described as an American agent who now plays the role of a businessman from Canada who established secret ties in Rome with deputies of the Christian Democrats and neo-fascist parties. The allegations were reprinted in various newspapers associated with the communist parties in Italy, France, and Soviet Union, as well as leftist newspapers in Canada and Greece, prior to reaching the American press 8 weeks later. American journalist Max Holland said that Pace Sera's allegations connecting Shaw to the CIA were what led Garrison to implicate the CIA in a conspiracy to assassinate Kennedy.
That is a lot of information to take in.
In one paragraph.
And my reading comprehension only gets so high sometimes. So I just want to make sure, like, I got this right.
Yep.
In layman's terms, basically, there was a side CIA agency, the Pace Sera, who was also involved with some trying to get rid of a French president, as well as
no. So the Pace Sera was a newspaper that reported on this person. What was the guy's name? I already fucking forgot it.
Shaw?
No, not Shaw. No. It was Max Holland. Nope. That was the American journalist. Where'd he go? Louis Bloomfield. There it is. So it was talking about Louis Bloomfield, who was technically an agent. They were saying that he's a CIA agent posing as a businessman.
I see.
Okay. He got linked to the CMC, which is a subsidiary of Permindex, and Shaw is a board member of Permindex. So he connected the dots in order to get Shaw, and through Shaw found that those dots connected to the CIA in Italy. And that's how he got this. That's how he came to the conclusion the CIA was involved.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm dude.
That was
I literally
a lot.
Must have read this one paragraph like 6 times, going over it and just being like, I don't know what to take out of this.
Yeah.
So thank you.
There was cool. there was a lot in that one little paragraph.
Yeah, a lot of connections.
So on January 29th, 1969, Clay Shaw was brought to trial on charges of being part of the conspiracy to assassinate Kennedy, and the jury found him not guilty.
Oh, all right. So they let him off the hook.
So DA did not do his job well.
Yeah.
Or the jury got paid off.
Yeah, something dirty happened there.
Now, Jim Garrison alleged that anti-communist and anti-Castro extremists in the CIA plotted the assassination of Kennedy to maintain tension with the Soviet Union and Cuba. Don't forget, Cold War. And to prevent a United States withdrawal from Vietnam. It's alleged that the CIA, acting upon orders of the conspirators with the, quote, military-industrial complex, which we will also get to, killed Kennedy and in the process set up Lee Harvey Oswald as a patsy. So you kind of see like a bunch of pieces all coming together right now.
Right.
Some people believe that Kennedy was killed because he was turning away from the Cold War and pursuing paths of nuclear disarmament, rapprochement with Fidel Castro, and withdrawal from the war in Vietnam.
And they can't just let they can't just let him do that because there's so much money wrapped up in the military-industrial complex.
Correct.
So they killed him for seeking out peace.
If we're not in Vietnam, if we're not at war with Cuba, and if we're not in the Cold War, a lot of people have nothing to do.
Right.
And therefore don't have jobs.
Can't have it. Yeah, and they can't have that.
Correct.
Ugh, that's so gross to think about, honestly.
Well, in 1977, the FBI released 40,000 files pertaining to the assassination of Kennedy, including an April 3rd, 1967 memorandum from Deputy Director Cartha DeLoach to Associate Director Clyde Tolson that was written less than a month after President Johnson learned from J. Edgar Hoover about CIA plots to kill Fidel Castro. According to DeLoach, LBJ aide Marvin Watson stated that the president had told him in an off moment that he was now convinced there was a plot in connection with the assassination of President Kennedy. Watson stated the president felt that the CIA had something to do with this plot. When questioned in 1975 during the Church Committee hearings, DeLoach told Senator Richard Schwelker that he felt that Watson's statement was sheer speculation.
No, but I get. Who's listening to Richard? Come on. No, it was DeLoach. DeLoach told Richard.
Let's talk about the next part of the CIA conspiracy, right? Because there's a lot. Like I said, there's a lot wrapped up in the CIA aspect of this conspiracy. So the next thing is...
It's so secretive.
Yeah.
Like, there's never any transparency with them.
So the next thing is the Oswald impersonator in Mexico City conspiracy. Gaitan Fonzi was hired as a researcher in 1975 by the Church Committee and by the House of Representatives Select Committee on Assassinations, the HSCA, in 1977. At the HSCA, Fonzi focused on the anti-Castro Cuban exile groups and the links that these groups had with the CIA and the Mafia, which we will get to. Fonzi would later come. Fonzi, I know that's cheap. It's a very cheap laugh, but I don't care.
It's cheap, but the entire time I was reading this too, I was just like,
you can't read this without just every time you see Fonzi going, hey,
the Fonz.
All right. Fonzi obtained testimony from Cuban exile Antonio Valencia that Valencia had once witnessed. Antonio Veciana, not Valencia, Veciana. That Veciana had once witnessed his CIA contact, who Fonzi would later come to believe was David L.T. Phillips, conferring with Lee Harvey Oswald. Okay, so this is happening in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Through his research, Fonzi became convinced that Phillips had played a key role in the assassination of President Kennedy. Fonzi also concluded that as part of the assassination plot, Phillips had actively worked to embellish Oswald's image as a communist sympathizer. He further concluded that the presence of a possible Oswald impersonator in Mexico City during the period that Oswald himself was in Mexico City may have been orchestrated by Phillips.
Now, that's very, very strange.
Yeah.
I'm sure it gets weirder.
It does. So, essentially what they're saying is there was a time where Oswald was in Mexico City, right? Don't forget, they've been watching Oswald since at least 1959.
Right.
Okay? So they knew who their patsy was. They knew where he was, and so this was like laying the groundwork for Oswald to be seen in this, to have him in this light.
Right.
So this evidence first surfaced in testimony given to the HSCA in 1978, and through the investigative work of independent journalist Anthony Summers in 1979. Summers spoke with a man named Oscar Contreras, a law student at National University in Mexico City, who said that someone calling himself Lee Harvey Oswald struck up a conversation with him inside a university cafeteria in the fall of 1963.
So I just want to make sure. So this timeline, he talked to him in the cafeteria of 63 in the fall. So it had to have been before, what, November?
Correct. This is like September, October.
Okay, cool.
Because the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald had taken a bus trip from Houston to Mexico City and back during the September through October of 63.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
So Contreras described Oswald as over 30, light-haired, and fairly short, a description that did not fit the real Oswald. To Fonzie, it seemed improbable that the real Oswald would at random start a conversation regarding his difficulties in obtaining a Cuban visa with Contreras, a man who belonged to a pro-Castro student group and had contacts in the Cuban embassy in Mexico City. So Fonzie theorized that there was an Oswald impersonator in Mexico City, directed by Phillips during the period that the Warren Commission concluded Oswald himself had visited the city. Fonzie's belief was strengthened by statements from another witness. On September 22nd, 1963, and again a week later, a man identifying himself as Oswald visited Cuban embassy in Mexico City. Consular Eusebio Azcu, God bless you, told Anthony Summers that the real Oswald in no way resembled the Oswald to whom he had spoken to at length. Embassy employee Sylvia Duran also told Summers that the real Oswald she eventually saw on film is not like the man I saw here in Mexico City. On October 1st, the CIA recorded two tapped telephone calls to the Soviet embassy by a man identified as Oswald. The CIA transcriber noted that Oswald spoke in broken Russian. The real Oswald was quite fluent in Russian. On October 10th, 63, the CIA issued a teletype to the FBI, the State Department, and the Navy regarding Oswald's visit to Mexico City. The teletype was accompanied by a photo of a man identified as Oswald, who in fact looked nothing like him.
That's so weird. And I know it keeps saying, like, he looked nothing like Oswald, but I wonder, like, do you think maybe he could have been the real deal? Like, that guy could have been the real Oswald, thus maybe, like, strengthening the argument of the Oswald who shot Kennedy, being like, hey, I'm just an impersonator, hence I'm a patsy,
Maybe.
When he got arrested.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's interesting. I never thought of it that way, actually.
Yeah, because that was the first thing that came to mind. It has to be either that or they're just trying to get some sort of timeline on him, I guess. But, like, why would they want a timeline of him in Mexico City?
Well, because he's been under surveillance. But what I don't understand is if he was in Mexico City and he's doing all these things and it's the Cold War and he's contacting Russia and then they send this out to the FBI, why wouldn't you pick him up?
Pick him up? Yep, absolutely. And at any point, they didn't realize that they were surveying two men with the same name?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that just feels like negligence on the CIA's part. Yeah,
Negligence.
I don't know, man. I feel like that. I feel like the whole I'm a patsy thing makes a lot more sense when you think about another Oswald out there.
It's interesting. That's actually, I never even thought about that. All right, so let's talk about on November 23rd, 1963, the day after the assassination of President Kennedy, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's preliminary analysis of the assassination included the following. The CIA advised that on October 1st, 1963, an extremely sensitive source had reported that the individual identifying himself as Lee Harvey Oswald contacted the Soviet embassy in Mexico City, inquiring as to any messages. Special agents of this bureau, who have conversed with Oswald in Dallas, Texas, have observed photographs of the individual referred to above and have listened to a recording of his voice. These special agents are of the opinion that the referred to individual was not Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. See, again, that just makes me think that the Oswald in Dallas was an impersonator giving the CIA a run for the money. Or maybe Oswald had somebody else out there using his name to throw the agency off his trail or something.
So many
Which would be,
possibilities.
you're right. Yeah, it's so weird. See, there's all these little holes, man.
Yeah.
All these little holes.
Well, that same day, Hoover had this conversation with the new president, LBJ.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll be LBJ here, right?
Okay.
I'm just gonna jump in there. Have you established any more about the Oswald visit to the Soviet embassy in Mexico in September?
Oh, no. There's one angle that's very confusing for this reason. We have up here the tape and the photograph of the man at the Soviet embassy using Oswald's name. That picture and the tape do not correspond to this man's voice, nor to his appearance. In other words, it appears that there was a second person who was at the Soviet embassy.
Nice. That was good.
Right? It's
I
pretty
would
good.
say,
That's a spot-on Hoover impersonation.
Hey, guys, if anybody's looking for any voiceover work or anything, contact me and JR. We're available. That's our resume, our outline resume.
I'll put that on our reel.
Please do.
No problem. All right. Fonzie concluded it was likely that the CIA would legitimately not be able to produce a single photograph of the real Oswald as part of the documentation of his trip to Mexico City, given that Oswald had made five separate visits to the Soviet and Cuban embassies, according to the Warren Commission, where the CIA maintains surveillance cameras. I don't know.
Yeah, right? It's just so fishy and weird, and none of it makes sense. It's just, why to Oswald? It's
All right.
It's so.
Next up, The Three Tramps, coming this fall to Disney+.
Three Tramps. Disney+. They would have Three Tramps on there.
It's the third Lady and the Tramp.
Nice.
The Three Tramps.
The Three Tramps.
So the Three Tramps are three men photographed by several Dallas area newspapers under police escort near the Texas School Book Depository shortly after the assassination of President Kennedy. The men were detained and questioned briefly by Dallas police, and they have been the subject of various conspiracy theories, including some that allege the three men to be known CIA agents by the name of E. Howard Hunt, Dan Carswell, and Frank Sturgis. Others are also believed to be linked.
I was curious, is this the Grassy Knoll story or no?
Do
you know?
I think it has something to do with the Grassy Knoll. I think it's partly related to, yes.
Yeah.
There's
I know a lot of
so
people
much involved in this friggin', I don't even know anymore what's in this outline.
That's fair. That's
so
fair.
much.
It's all over the place. That's the thing with the JFK assassination is the facts are all over the place.
And I've also been working on this outline for almost 2 weeks.
Jeez, dude.
So there's been so much information.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to whittle through it and read it all and then put it in the thing and go back through it, and it's just after a while I'm I don't know what conspiracy theory is tied to which. I'm practically reading this for the first time again. Right.
Because again, they're all over the place. So,
yeah. So let's find out, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's start with E. Howard Hunt. Several conspiracy theorists have named former CIA agent and Watergate figure E. Howard Hunt as a possible participant in the Kennedy assassination, and some, as noted before, have alleged that Hunt is one of the three tramps. Hunt has taken various magazines actually to court over accusations with regard to the assassination of Kennedy. And in August 2003, while in failing health, Hunt allegedly confessed to his son of his knowledge of a conspiracy in the JFK assassination. However, Hunt's health improved, and he went on to live 4 more years. So shortly before his death in 2007, he authored an autobiography which implicated Lyndon B. Johnson in the assassination, which we will also get into, suggesting that Johnson had orchestrated the killing with the help of CIA agents. There always comes back to the CIA, who had been angered by Kennedy's actions as president. After Hunt's death, his sons, St. John Hunt and David Hunt, stated that their father had recorded several claims about himself and others being involved in a conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy.
That's That's so fishy. Again, well, like, what reason would a dying person have to lie about something so serious like that?
Yeah.
Unless he was like maybe just like having like a dementia episode or something like that.
Possibly.
Yeah, like he even recorded his claims about it.
I just think it's fucking hysterical that he recovered.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious, honestly. It's like,
son, come closer. I was part of the Kennedy assassination. Oh, actually, I feel much better.
Actually, after having that tea, I'm feeling a lot better, a lot more
I think the medicine's starting to work.
Cut what I just said there. I didn't say that.
Never mind, son.
You misheard me. Jeez.
All right, let's move on to David Morales. Some researchers believe that CIA operative David Morales was involved in the Kennedy assassination as well. Morales' friend, Ruben Carbajal, claimed that in 1973, Morales opened up about his involvement with the Bay of Pigs invasion operation and stated that Kennedy had been responsible for him having to watch all the men he recruited and trained get wiped out. Carbajal claimed that Morales also said, "We took care of that SOB, didn't we?" Morales is alleged to have once told friends, quote, "I was in Dallas when we got the son of a bitch, and I was in Los Angeles when we got the little bastard," presumably referring to the assassination of President Kennedy in Dallas and the later assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy in Los Angeles, California on June 5th, 1968. Morales is alleged to have expressed deep anger towards the Kennedys for what he saw as their betrayal during the Bay of Pigs invasion.
That's crazy. There's a lot of crazy there. Yeah. And yeah, he sounds guilty as hell.
There's a lot of crazy all over this.
Right. Yeah, this guy is very unhinged, it sounds like. So,
I mean, I get,
a lot of hate for the Kennedys.
I get the motive, right? Like if he watched all these people that he recruited, that means like he knew them personally and had a relationship with them, and watching all of them die could definitely help push you to snap. Right.
And I feel like you're getting some sort of revenge on the guy who got your guys nicked.
All right, next up, Frank Sturgis.
Frankie.
Yeah, my boy Frank. In an article published in the South Florida Sun-Sentinel on December 4th, 1963, James Buchanan, a former reporter for Sun-Sentinel, claimed that Frank Sturgis had met Lee Harvey Oswald in Miami, Florida, shortly before Kennedy's assassination. Buchanan claimed that Oswald had tried to infiltrate the International Anti-Communist Brigade. When he was questioned by the FBI about this story, Sturgis claimed that Buchanan had misquoted him regarding his comments about Oswald. According to a memo sent by L. Patrick Gray, acting FBI director, to H.R. Haldeman on June 19, 1972, sources in Miami say that he, Sturgis, is now associated with organized crime activities. In his book, Assassination of JFK, published in 1977, Bernard Fensterwald claims that Sturgis was heavily involved with the mafia, particularly the Santo Trafficante and Meyer Lansky's activities in Florida.
Jesus, man. The rabbit hole goes deep on these guys,
Just keep digging, dude. And that's why they say that it was probably a much wider net, right? It's not like the CIA killed Kennedy. It's not the mafia killed Kennedy. You can see like there is interwoven through so many different organizations. That's why, like, technically, after like going through all of this, the argument could be made that all 7 of these accused or implicated or believed conspiracy, whatever, all 7 of these parties could have been working together.
Right.
Because that's how intertwined all of this conspiracy is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just crazy to think, right? Like the president, this president was so beloved by the public. He was just loved pretty much by everyone.
Yeah.
Except for the inside governments and crime mafias and these sort of things.
Well,
because he wasn't letting them get away with it.
He was anti-war.
Yep.
He was anti-union.
Yep.
He was anti-Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
He was not
Yeah.
anti-communist.
Right.
To the point of like, you don't have to hate communism, you know what I mean, as opposed to the rest of the country going down with communists.
Yeah. Yep.
So like all of these things are upsetting a whole bunch of people.
Exactly.
But
so he made
the
a lot of
people
enemies.
are cool with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't making enemies with the people. You know,
Right.
he was tough on other
Because he was
areas.
just getting BJs in the Oval Office, not from his wife.
Right.
Anywho.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton's just a copycat.
John F. Kennedy paved the way for intern screwing.
You really rolled the carpet out for that.
I know. I want to talk to you about George de Mohrenschildt. I think I pronounced that right.
That looks right.
I'm going to call him George.
Georgie.
After returning home from the Soviet Union, Lee Harvey Oswald became friends with Dallas resident and petroleum geologist George. George would later write an extensive memoir in which he discussed his friendship with Oswald. George's wife would later give the House Select Committee on Assassinations, or the HSCA, a photograph that showed Oswald in his Dallas backyard holding 2 Marxist newspapers and a Carcano rifle with a pistol on his hip. 13 years after the JFK assassination in September 1976, the CIA requested that the FBI locate Georgie in response to a letter George had written to his friend, CIA Director George H.W. Bush, appealing to Bush to stop the agency from taking action against him.
Yeah, he was writing to his good old friend Timberwolf, huh?
Yeah.
That was his CIA code name, and I believe the Secret Service's code name for him too.
Probably. It's a great fucking code name, though.
Timberwolf? Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
They all have weird names. I believe Obama was Renegade. I think
that's fantastic.
When Hillary was going for president, I believe she was Evergreen.
Was she Evergreen or was she Cankles?
That's just our code name for her.
Sorry.
But I forget what the other ones were. But they always have like really interesting code names for the Secret Service.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So several Warren Commission critics, including Jesse Ventura, have alleged that George was one of Oswald's CIA handlers, but have offered little evidence. I'm just going to come out and say anything that Jesse Ventura comes out with is just bullshit as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, man.
I don't like it.
You know it's true, but come on. Look at that fucking ponytail baldness going on,
Thank you
dude.
for your service.
Ah, he's so good. I fucking love Jesse Ventura.
He's such
a
worst.
Such a tool, dude. He's so good.
He is. You're only allowed to love him because it's fun to hate him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, at least we can agree on that.
He was in Predator. I mean, how can you hate on the guy?
Watch me. On March 29th, 1977, George stated during an interview with author Edward J. Epstein, no relation, that he had been asked by CIA operative J. Walton Moore to meet with Oswald, something George had also told the Warren Commission 13 years earlier. When interviewed in 1978 by the HSCA, J. Walton Moore said that while he had periodic contact with George, he had no recollection of any conversation with him concerning Oswald. George told Epstein, no relation, that he would not have contacted Oswald, that he had not been told to do so. George met with Oswald several times from the summer of 62 to April of 63. The same day that George was interviewed by Epstein, no relation, George was informed by his daughter that a representative of the House Select Committee on Assassinations had stopped by and left his calling card and intended to return that evening. George then committed suicide by shooting himself in the head shortly thereafter. George's wife later told sheriff's office investigators that her husband had been hospitalized for depression and paranoia in late 1976 and had tried to kill himself 4 times that year.
Okay. So I was gonna say that's a fake suicide because that happens a lot when these when people tend to know too much here. And I was gonna say clearly not if he had tried 4 times prior. It was in the hospital, but maybe they were for botched attempts.
Or I'm surprised you didn't come out with this theory right away.
Mm-hmm.
He gets taken out. They go to his house and they say, "Hi, wife. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell the sheriffs that he was depressed and he tried to kill himself 4 times already this year. We can fudge hospital records. That's a piece of cake. Here's what you're going to tell them, or you can join him."
Yeah, you're going to kill yourself too.
That's like it's never been done before.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, everybody. Well, that's how we will wrap up this time on the Mystery in Our History podcast. Be sure to check out our website, 4guysmedia.com, for news, updates, and a list of all of our other podcasts. We do have a new podcast out. By the time this episode launches, I believe at least one episode will be out. It's called Someone Else's Shoes, hosted by myself. Each episode, I interview a new person and just take a look at that person's story, and, whatever the case may be. So our first episode, we're actually interviewing a country music singer, good friend of mine, Jessica Lynn, and discussing just how there is a huge misconception of the music industry these days, and what it really takes to be a touring country music singer. It's not as easy as you think. It's not as easy as you think to get a record deal. It's not as easy as you think to get yourself out there noticed. It's tough. And so
sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's the first episode, and then our second episode is an interview. We sit down with another good friend of mine, Heather, who has been living through this pandemic of the COVID era with a autoimmune disease. And so essentially, she is one of the many individuals out there that every time they leave their house, they can just die because of the world we live in. So I discuss with her just kind of everyday life, how living in a pandemic is any different. And we talk about, how she deals with her disease on a day-to-day basis. And so the show's just kind of designed to help see, what other people go through day to day, and help you kind of imagine what it would be like to walk a mile in their shoes. So be sure to check it out. It's on our YouTube page. It's on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere that, podcasts are sold for free. And that's going to do it for this week. So we will see you next time on the Mystery in Our History podcast. And good luck, Godspeed. Bye.
See ya.